Hello, how's it going, everybody? How are you? How's your day? I hope it's going well. It's almost springtime. It's almost there, even if it doesn't feel like it on the East Coast. We're so happy that you're joining us here today. We're going to talk about the digital fluency gap. Now, before we get into things, I just wanted to do some housekeeping. The first thing is you may be wondering, hey, I look a lot different than the white haired guy that was in the email that you signed up for the webinar for. Well, Daryl Prale unfortunately was not able to make today's webinar due to scheduling conflicts. So I'm going to be filling in as host. I'm the pinch runner, I'm the backup quarterback, but hopefully I'll be able to lead us through today's webinar. So one other piece of noteworthy item that I wanted to bring up is that this is going to be recorded. So if you love what we talk about, you think it's really cool, you should share it with your friends because they're going to be able to watch this on demand. We're going to send an email to your inbox 24 hours after this show is done. So that's really cool. And hey, there's one last thing. Go to the right and you'll see a little comments tab. Go in there, write your comments, say maybe just an observation that you had, thinking about the digital fluency gap, or maybe you've experienced that yourself. Go check it out. We'd love to hear from you. And we got people in there who will respond to those comments. So that's pretty cool. In the meantime, I'm not doing this alone. I am here with Lemonade CEO, John Finley. John, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good.
Awesome. Well, let's not waste any time. I know everybody here has a busy schedule. Let's jump right into it with the first slide. So you see here, we have this strange combination of a golf cart and a Ferrari. What is that about? Our graphic designer was really excited that they made this come to life for us, which was really cool. But it's a fact that credit unions have poured billions into digital apps and cloud infrastructure, and yet members and staff often still struggle with knowing how to use it. So that's like paying for a Ferrari, but your staff is sort of driving it like a golf cart. So this creates that digital fluency gap where staff can't really guide members through the tools to help them. So I love this slide because you see right away the 30%, it really stands out. It's a stat from banking industry research that only 30% of bank digital transformations succeed, highlighting the gap between technology investment and real adoption. That is a massive, massive gap right there. You'll see only 1 in 3 digital transformations succeed. So that's pretty low, right? So what is this all about? What is this digital fluency gap? So there's a little bit of a mismatch. So most organizations invest heavily in digital transformation, but they sort of neglect the digital adoption that's required for this to work. So what does that mean? That means something like this. So you have a member, right? They call your credit union and they say, hey, my remote deposit failed. And your staff goes, I'm sorry, I wish I could help you. I haven't actually used that feature myself. So you see right away there that there's a little bit of a friction created because you have your member who wants this issue solved, obviously. And then you have your staff who unfortunately just doesn't really know how to answer the question correctly. And maybe they feel a little bit awkward because they wish they knew the answer. So you're creating a little bit of that friction there because there's a knowledge gap. So the consequences, your staff, maybe they feel foolish and maybe they don't know how to go ahead with this engagement with the member. And then on the flip side, maybe your member starts to lose trust in your organization. So John, what have you seen when it comes to the digital fluency gap? And how has this impacted credit unions that you've talked to?
Well, I think the big challenge is that at most financial institutions in the United States, staff are not mandated to bank with their employer. So if they don't bank with you, they don't use your technology, your member-facing tech. And if they don't use it, then it's very difficult for them to recommend it, which is how you're going to drive that ROI. And then, as Nathaniel mentioned, it's difficult to support it. So that's kind of the first piece that we see. The next challenge is that the tech is constantly evolving. You know, your tech providers are going to update their technology from time to time. And when that gets updated, it impacts the member. And so often when you roll out new tech or you get updates to your tech, you'll see a significant spike in your contact centers as members try to figure out how to use the new tech. And most FIs don't have the tools to train and support their staff and their customers or members as they roll out that tech. So I think those are two of the big challenges that go on right there.
That's fantastic insight. So how we like to look at this, or something that's interesting to measure this digital fluency gap with, is something called a digital fluency score. So, in other words, DFS. So, it's an index rated from 0 to 100, and it's calculated by cross-referencing staff time to resolution, how long it takes a staff member to resolve an issue with a member, scenario accuracy, so how accurate the solution provided by that staff is to that member. Maybe they give them an answer that, yes, it will fix their problem, but it's not the ideal solution. So measuring things like that. And then alternatively, you have the continuous proficiency metrics. So is this just a one-time thing that your staff knew how to do, but can they do this consistently over multiple different queries and multiple different member questions? So a fun self-assessment that you could do in your own credit union is you could audit your frontline staff, okay, and say, in 60 seconds, can you successfully freeze a debit card? Can you set up a travel notice? And you can't use AI, you can't Google it, you can't look in the manuals. Can you do this on your own in 60 seconds? So that just gives you a little bit of a peek into how efficient the digital fluency is within your organization. So as you can see here, we have a little bit of a matrix. So as you continue to grow your digital offering, the tool complexity grows. And if your staff confidence and fluency does not grow with it, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. John, have you seen this with your time talking with credit unions and banks as well?
For sure. There's definitely, there can be a fluency gap, and I think it fluctuates. You implement new digital capabilities. In the beginning, your staff might not be as well trained, but they eventually start to understand it better. But then again, when those updates come or you change providers, that gap grows again. And so digital transformation, I think, isn't a destination, it's a journey. And it's constant and it's ever evolving. And so that's why the burden on training and support is always going to be there. Your tech providers might tell you, our tech's so easy, we don't need training or support. But even the iPhone has an owner's manual.
I love that. I love that. Even the iPhone has an owner's manual is a great quote. So just sort of adding to this and sort of putting this into the greater picture, I have a stat for you here, which is that institutions that prioritize digital fluency see a 5.4 times higher rate of self-service adoption. This is based on a Gartner research study from 2023. And it shows that digital ambassadors or staff that are fluent in your technology are the primary drivers of member behavior change. So not a marketing campaign, not something that they received in their email. It's actually recommendations and advice given from your staff to your members.
Could I chime in there for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a really important point. So the folks who aren't using your digital capabilities, where are they? They're coming into your branches and they're calling your contact centers. And every single conversation that they have with one of your staff members is an opportunity to convert them to that digital channel. So someone comes into the branch and says, I want to deposit a check. Well, one answer is, sure, what account do you want to put it in? Another one is, did you know you could have done that using your mobile device? Let me show you how easy that would have been. Each of those conversations is an opportunity to convert and to drive the ROI on those digital investments you're making. But if your staff doesn't have the training or support, those opportunities are missed. So I just wanted to chime in on that.
Oh, 100%. I think that's a great point for sure. So now I want to transition into the Net Promoter Score, or NPS. So this is essentially a score that ranks how likely your members are to recommend your credit union to a colleague or to family members on a scale of 0 to 10. So there's 3 different pillars here that make up the Net Promoter Score. And there is the promoters. So that's the people who are rating 9 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 on the satisfaction scale. So they are loyal enthusiasts. They love your credit union. Often they'll recommend your credit union to family members and friends. I had such a great experience with this credit union. And then you have the passives. So these are the people who they enjoy your credit union. They're happy. They're not looking to leave your institution. But at the same time, they might not be promoting your institution or telling other people about your institution. So that is still a very good thing. But the third column, which can be very risky, is the detractors. So this is the 0 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10 satisfaction scale. So these are the unhappy customers. And these are the customers that are often likely, maybe they'll leave a bad review about your credit union, or maybe they'll simply just look for another institution and they'll look to leave your institution. So what does this average out to? Essentially, you subtract the percentage of detractors from the final percentage of promoters to get a score between -100 and 100. So a credit union on average has an NPS of 68. So pretty okay, just above passing, while a traditional bank lags even further behind this at a 41 out of 100. So a best-in-class organization, the top of the top, will hit 80 or above. So that's something to strive for sure. So when your member asks for digital help and staff can't provide it, it creates this detractor, which can be likely to leave your organization. John, have you seen this where a member has just not received the help that they're looking for, and instead they look to leave an organization?
I mean, I think it's especially the case when you talk about younger generations who their predominant way of interacting with their financial institution is through digital channels, and their expectation of digital experience is quite a bit higher than some of the older folks who might remember what the internet looked like in 2003. So yeah, I think digital member experience or digital customer experience is a very important element of driving loyalty amongst your customers or members.
100%. 100%. So what does this look like? How do we fix this digital fluency gap? Well, we have a little bit of a roadmap for you here. And honestly, the steps are not in any particular order, but we believe they're all essential. So one of the first steps that I would look at is deploying a digital academy. So instead of just having old training manuals and maybe one-off training for your staff, there is this internal view for support staff so they can see exactly what the member sees in the app, and it helps remove a lot of the support calls. And what's cool about something like a digital academy, especially with something like Lemonade LXP, is that it is both staff and member facing. So your members can see a lot of the ins and outs, some tutorials, walkthroughs of your new products. So that helps eliminate some of the stress and burden on a support center. And then also, it works great for staff. Like, staff can use this resource as well to get a better understanding of your tools. So the second pillar I'd look at is micro learning. So breaking down sort of a long 50-page bulky manual into game-based modules and that staff actually enjoy and like training with. John is really well-versed in game-based learning. That's something that we try to utilize in Lemonade LXP. And it has great results when it comes to actually providing training that sticks with your staff. And then lastly, you can look at implementing an AI instant knowledge database. So of course, it happens from time to time. Your staff are unsure perhaps about a member query. And instead of just having to look through like pages and pages of a PDF, trying to find where the right answers are for the question, they can ask something like an AI chatbot, which can point them in the right direction of the appropriate source material, maybe even training material that they can do on their own time. And that can be super helpful when it comes to queries with your members. John, looking at this roadmap, is there anything that stands out to you when it comes to these three pillars and their effectiveness at eliminating this gap?
Well, I think the first piece is that you've got all sorts of information about your products, digital products that you're implementing. There will be documentation that comes with them, user manuals, all that kind of stuff. And if you have an AI knowledge base that you can put them in, it arms your staff with answers to customer or member questions, but they can query that database when they have a question they can't answer. So I think that's really crucial. But I think the training piece is an important one, and the game-based stuff is one element and one way to make that training a little bit more appealing. And we've seen great success with that at many of our credit union customers and community banks, to be honest. But yeah, I think those two elements are pretty important.
For sure. So let's take a look at the next steps, right? So not only does this these sort of three pillars help to eliminate this digital fluency gap, it's also going to have a little bit of a culture change, right? So it's not just on the knowledge side of things, it's also your culture within your staff. So the goal here not only is just eliminating this digital fluency gap, but changing your staff from order takers into trusted advisors. So here's one interaction handled by somebody who approaches a member query from an order taker perspective versus a trusted advisor perspective. So you have a member who wants to reset their password. An order taker will simply reset their password, which is helpful. It provides immediate relief to the member, but it acts a little bit as a band-aid because, as we all know, often you have to reset your password. This is a common issue. So this will probably come up again, and the member will probably call in again. So instead, a trusted advisor perspective will not only change their password, help provide that immediate relief, but also show them how to do it within the app next time so that they can solve their problem themselves in the future. So not only does this help your staff, they feel more confident when dealing with a member query, but also it can be super helpful because it just eliminates a little bit of that burden off the support center and eliminates a little bit of that frustration as well with the members. So that can be very, very helpful. So by closing the digital fluency gap, you can finally unlock the ROI of your digital investment. This reduces call center costs, as I mentioned, and it protects your NPS like we discussed earlier. And it ensures that no member is left behind. You'll see we have the full-fledged Ferrari here. So in other words, you can start using your technology investment the way it was meant to be used and unlock the full value for both your staff and your members. So at this time, we're going to transition into a demo. We're going to try to show some of these pillars on how to close this digital fluency gap in action within Lemonade LXP. John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So I'm going to walk you through how you would use AI to roll out effective training and support for your digital capabilities. So let's take this from the perspective of I'm rolling out a new core product. So I'm going to roll out Banno from Jack Henry. And I want to be able to train my staff and support my members. So in Lemonade LXP, the first thing you would have is a knowledge base. And you can see this Solus knowledge base. It's our demo version. So in that knowledge base, I can drag and drop files in virtually any format. So think PDFs about the product, think any type of product information that we have coming from Jack Henry about Banno, and even some stuff about how we've configured it. So as we configure Banno, we can create documentation. We can put it all in here. Once we put it all in here, we can instruct AI to create courseware for us and support content. And so you do that in the blueprint section. I won't go into too much detail about that, but you use AI to create your content. You can see this Jack Henry course. There's all these modules. They were all created with AI. So I'm going to show you specifically what how that was created. But first, I also want to show you how we create walkthroughs of any software app. So I can launch my asset manager. I'm going to create a walkthrough. So I'll just search for mobile. Say we're doing something for a mobile transaction. So I grab my screenshot, and to add my guiding text, I simply drag and drop over the field. And here I might write, enter username. And I'm not going to bother correcting my spelling because my typing is terrible. Here I'd write enter password. And I can even autofill. So here I might have some stars, right? And if I go back to this one, I forgot to autofill, so I'll write John Doe, for example. So there's my autofill. And then the last piece is the tap here to continue, let's say. So I'm done with that screen. Now I go launch my asset manager. I grab the next screen in the flow. And since this is just a quick demo, I'm just going to finish it here. I'll just write some gibberish. So as quickly as I could select screens and type, it's built my walkthrough. And here it is in the real world that fast. So when you're rolling out new tech and you want to teach people how to use it, you can create with these walkthroughs in minutes. So as you configure the tech, you can have walkthroughs ready to teach your staff and to teach customers. So that's the first piece. That's how you create content. Now let's go and take a look at what we created. So the first piece we did, we want to introduce Jack Henry Banno to our staff so that they understand the transition. So Insight AI wrote a script which we put into Synthesia, which is a third-party tool, because there's so many good video tools out there. We didn't build our own, but it wrote this.
Jack Henry's Banno digital platform is a comprehensive suite of digital banking solutions designed to...
We won't go through the whole thing. It's not meant to be a Jack Henry ad, but it introduces the new technology. And of course, some people prefer to read. So Insight AI scraped all of that information about the product, and it wrote us a consolidated article that introduces Banno, talks about how it supports Spanish, talks about embedded fintech, prioritizing security and fraud. It's got all the details in there. So learners can read that stuff and understand it. And once they've got a background through the video and the learning, they can actually participate in some game-based learning. As Nathaniel mentioned earlier, we're big fans of game-based learning because it's short, it's concise, and it gives you feedback loops, and it's kind of fun. So I've got 5 lives, and I'm trying to get through this quiz game. That's one example of game-based learning. It also created a crossword puzzle for us. So all the hints and answers are about Jack Henry Banno. So super engaging and fun way to teach that isn't sort of just reading PDFs. The last pieces of our walkthrough, I showed you how we can create a walkthrough of the technology. Here is a walkthrough of Banno itself. So it walks you through how to do a transaction. So all that stuff authored in minutes with AI and with our demo authoring tool. The last piece in the course is actually AI coaching. So here I'm going to have a customer who who's calling in to say, what the heck, my banking technology has changed. What's going on? So here is I'll just do a quick voice simulation. Hi, Tracy. Thanks for calling. How can I help you?
Hi there. I'm actually calling about the new online banking system. I got an email saying I need to switch, but I'm not really sure why. And to be honest, I'm a bit overwhelmed. Can you help me understand what's changing?
Yeah, we've implemented a new digital banking platform. Now, I know new software can be daunting, but we've actually rolled out a customer support site with walkthroughs of how to do all the transactions you'll need to do.
Walkthroughs sound helpful, but I'm a busy dentist. How long are these going to take? I need to know I can do things like pay bills and send e-transfers quickly. Can you tell me exactly how this will make my life easier?
Okay, so we won't go through the whole thing, but it teaches me to handle conversations. And when I'm done, by the way, I get an evaluation of how well I did, my strengths, my weaknesses, how was my tone, did I show empathy? Did I show that I understood the problem? And did I explain the product properly? And you can create those from scratch in a matter of a couple of minutes in Lemonade. So the other thing is sometimes you take your courses, but you don't necessarily remember everything, and you might need some support in the flow of work. Lemonade's got your back there too. So if I have a member has a question that I can't answer, I can go and ask that same database. I can query the database that we created in the beginning. So watch this. How do I do a mobile deposit? So now what it's going to do is it's going to query that database and look for any information that's in there about how to do a mobile deposit. And it's going to return an answer for me. It'll not only answer my question, so here's my answer, and it's got references to the information that it actually grabbed. It'll also link out to those walkthroughs of the mobile deposit, the step-by-step walkthrough. So I can grab that walkthrough and I can forward it on to that member. So it's not just training, it's supporting the flow of work in case you forget your training. So that's kind of the internal piece, but I can also take any content that I've created and I can distribute it publicly for member or customer support. So this is an example of a digital academy. And what it has is it has content related to any of my offering. In this case, you can see the Banno videos are here. So it walks you, these are videos to introduce to the customer. So you want to tell the member, oh, here's the reason that we implemented Banno and here's the reason for the change and how it's going to benefit you. You've got this video to do it. And if you want to let's say you also rolled out Zelle, you can give them share a walkthrough on how to send money.
First, select Send from the menu. Choose the recipient, John Smith.
And the talk through piece is all generated from AI as well. So what this allows you to do is roll out an academy with support for that new tech rollout, walkthroughs, videos, even some game-based learning, and it will take a ton of weight off your contact center. And you can also use it to introduce the new technology so it's not so jarring for your members when you roll it out. So that's a quick example, a quick tour of how Lemonade LXP can be used to make new tech implementations more smoothly, close that digital fluency gap, and help you maximize the ROI on the investments you're making in technology.
How cool was that, folks? I saw the walkthrough when I first joined Lemonade LXP, and I was very impressed. But combined with the Insight AI tools and just seeing it all come together is very, very cool. So just to close it out, some next action steps. You can audit your front line. You can run a mystery shopper test, almost like an undercover boss. Have someone call your branch and ask specific questions about the mobile app's advanced features. And if you find your staff aren't quite sure about some of these questions, about these advanced technological features, then hey, maybe there is a training gap there, right?
Nathaniel, could I jump in there for 1 second?
Absolutely.
You said something really interesting. When we ran a digital fluency campaign for TD Bank, they actually hired JD Power to call in to their contact centers with questions about digital, and then track how often that agent was able to make a digital recommendation. And they tracked it before the training and after, and they saw an increase of 91% in digital product recommendations. So that's a great exercise to audit your front line and see how comfortable they are recommending your digital capabilities. And then with the training after, you can see a significant lift in that.
Wow, that's very cool. That's cool to see it backed up in real life as well, right? So the second thing you can do after you've audited your front line is you can review your training engagement. So if you're seeing that there's a high completion rate of your existing training, but there's still this high call volume for your support team, then there may be a little bit of a gap there when it comes to the training. Maybe the training isn't effective enough. Maybe the forgetting curve is setting in and we're starting to lose some of that information. So maybe it's time to review how you're training your staff, right? And then lastly, you can look to align your digital and experience. So scheduling a cross-functional meeting between your digital and experience leads to define exactly what your digital fluency goal looks like. Okay, so the last stat here that I wanted to bring up, which I thought was very powerful, you see the 2x here. So customers who are encouraged by staff to use self-service are twice as likely to adopt in the future. So that is a massive jump. That's not a small jump. That's not a small percentage, 2 times as likely. So your staff are your best ambassadors when it comes to these new tech rollouts, right? So before we leave, we'd like to thank you so much for joining this webinar. Thanks for joining us. I know you have a busy schedule, so we appreciate having you here. If you like this, like I said, we're going to send you the recording in 24 hours. Share it with your friends. Maybe share it on LinkedIn. Maybe share your own thoughts as well. If you have experiences with the digital fluency gap or how you've closed it, we'd love to hear about it. You can tag us on LinkedIn at Lemonade LXP. And you can see here, we're on all these different social platforms. So check them out because we are bringing fun, relatable, and educational content to you all the time. So that would be awesome to hear from you. At the same time, you can also send an email to hello@lemonadelxp.com. If you have any specific questions for John, he will answer them and you can get your questions answered, which would be really cool. So lastly, if you like this, like I said, please share it. Please tell your friends, watch it again, do whatever you like. We're going to send you the recording. And we really appreciate you being here. John, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.